So good morning, good afternoon to all our guests, co-workers, and welcome to another Power Block on Aria Operations. Today, we're going to be focusing on customizing Aria Operations by using um, Aria Operations for integration and also called management packs, or earlier they were called a True Visibility Suite. Um, your presenters that you're seeing their photos on the screen. Joe, we're two out of the four CMBU team members, right? So Joe covers the West. So Joe, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe DiBella. I am one of the senior cloud solution architects. And that's just a fancy title for someone who's an expert in all the Aria technology. So Aria Operations being one of them, to name a few others, Aria Automation, Aria Operations for logs. Many of you might know them better as vRealize, so vRealize Operations, vRealize Log Insight. We did go through a name change. I think it was 18 months ago at this point. So for those of you who have not acclimated to the new name, I know I'm one of those people. So first of all, don't feel bad if you haven't acclimated. But for those of you who haven't acclimated, if I use the term Aria, just keep in mind that that essentially translates to vRealize. And with that, I'll turn it over to my other partner in crime, Deepak. So Deepak, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. So Deepak Gianchandani, as Joe said, we are the cloud management business unit, SEs, pre-sales engineers, architects that work with you guys as customers and provide those kinds of solutions to you. And that will review one of them, which will be Aria Operations and then dashboard specifically. Again, as Joe had mentioned, and anybody who came on recently, if we can just use the Q&A because all the participants are currently in listen-only mode. So the Q&A will be the best way to do it because Zoom then to have the audio, we would have to promote you to a speaker. So it's easier to do a Q&A and hopefully we'll be able to address them as we go through it. Having said that, so this is a brief agenda for our presentation, webinar, Power Block. We'll review some of the current challenges that you guys may be facing in modernizing and monitoring your current environment, whether it's VMware or whether it's cloud, more specifically the VMware editions of the cloud. Introduce you to the management packs, what they are, how they're used. We'll also just put up a quick survey of how many people are familiar with it already, so that we have an idea how to tailor this as much as we can, part of the presentation and focus in if there needs to be some kind of focus onto it. Again, review the operations for integration and go beyond the normal standard operations is to add in these management packs. Joe is going to do a demo of one of the management packs. I think he's got the Microsoft SQL integration as a content pack. We'll come back, do a quick overview of some other quick dashboards. I'm only going to show you 2 or 3, but there's 100 plus out there. And then Joe's going to go in and as long as you have Aria Operations Advanced or Enterprise, as to how to create your own dashboard. And again, Joe will specifically do one of them, which is a heat map dashboard, and then actually we'll come back and make sure all your questions that you may have are addressed along the way. So some of the challenges that you may be facing while you're doing monitoring of your various VMware environments, that, hey, we're collecting a lot of data or there's too much data and we don't know how to make sense out of it and to give it the meaning. Also, you may be trying to do root cause analysis and issues behind the alerts, the warnings that you're getting, and to be able to easily use a dashboard to narrow in and zoom in on those issues. Other customers may be too reactive, as in max storage is already at 100%, and then you've got to deal with it from that point of view versus having that yellow alert hey, the warning of the storage will go out in 60 days is what's being displayed as one simple example. To again know your environment, as Joe's going to show you the heatsink dashboards to be able to see those warnings, and then also get procurement and anybody else that you need in management to approve the thing and or make the right decisions. Hey, maybe these VMs need to be shut off, the storage needs to be decommissioned, and so forth and so on. So the goal is to create a comprehensive and a cohesive monitoring strategy, have a central monitoring performance and utilization. That's what Aria Operations provides you. It provides you one dashboard, and then it collects all of the data, not only just vCenter data, but it collects the overall health enabled full stack. And when we mean by full stack, goes all the way down from the network. You may or may not have NSX. You may be using direct Cisco. You may be using F5. You may be for storage. You may be using Pure, NetApp, Dell, various other things. All of those metrics through these management packs can be installed and get you those metrics up into that one dashboard to be able to look at it. So that way you have a holistic analysis and planning, looking at all the components to be able to do your data job or planning. So we'll get into the creating of the cohesive monitoring and strategic via the management packs, peel back the onion a little bit more. So what you're basically doing is taking Aria Operations, which was called VROPS earlier, and expanding it. So there's a lot of color codes in here. For example, the ones in green are giving you the ESX, the VMs, the data centers, the host, right? And then when you get into the blue is what is an add-in, for example, computer network, computer blades, or the compute blades, or the chassis, your storage volumes, and then within that, there's a database instance that is now expanded out with the multiple copies. Like normally, Microsoft not only just has the primary database, but it has adjunct databases, and you can look at all those in through one view. And on the bottom again, it's going into the network switch and the network ports as well. So again, one dashboard looking at an area that you may be focused in on to be able to do so. And that's what Aria Operations Integrations is providing you. It's a deeper root cause analysis tool, wider collaboration for hybrid cloud management, and allowing you the full stack resource dependency and mapping. So this is how it's bundled together. Along with the bundling of Aria Operations for Integrations, again, a brand new name, it used to be called the True Visibility Suite. Some of these are included with when you license Aria Operations, which is that top layer. So you have compute, storage that is included, as I gave an example, even Cohesity as a backup is used, and we have even, Avamar and so from so on being reported. They may not be here. There are APIs, and we'll get into the marketplace, that cloud.vmware.com, that one can go out and find if there are any already pre-canned done, whether through its VMware or it's done through the third party. So for example, I think Pure maintains its own edition of that management pack, Pure Storage is what I'm talking about. So you can see that now. Advanced Aria Operations Advanced, then you would bundle in and or add on the Aria Operations Integration SKU to be able to do individually. Let's say if you want to monitor F5 or do any of Docker or Tanzu solution set or Nutanix. So we can even monitor Nutanix, which is yet another hypervisor beyond our vSphere Plus. So there's a whole bunch of add-ons that can be done to expand that out. In order to do those, you're going to need the advanced version Aria Ops. And then we get into the enterprise edition. By the way, on the advanced, I highlighted VMware Horizon. In that case, there's no additional license or cost for it. You do have to install it. We don't want to go ahead and start off Aria Operations when we install with a whole bunch of things being collected unnecessarily, if that is not your team's focused, as it will use additional RAM, additional storage to collect all those metrics and CPU so that it can process all that stuff. So by default, the basic operations comes in, and then as you need it, you can go to marketplace.cloud.vmware.com. The ones that are included are up above, but it could be also in advance. And VMware Horizon, all it needs is the advanced Aria Operations. And then we get in the enterprise edition of Aria Operations, which has the applications interface and monitoring. So there you have your Apache, MySQL, the databases, along with ServiceNow or SAP applications, your Apache Tomcat. So those are in that enterprise edition. And there is one SKU that allows you, if you do the entire, if you need all of them or more than two, normally it's more economical just to get the entire version, whether it's the advanced level or the enterprise level, versus having to individually license the Oracle or MySQL or the SAP HANA or SAP by itself. So there's an additional bundling in reference to it. Joe?
Hey, yeah. So, everyone, Deepak just did a great job of going over the list of different plugins that are available for Aria Operations. And there is quite a list, right? And I'm sure some of you were looking at that list and saying, hey, I have IIS servers, I have SQL databases, I have Cisco switches and routers. And what we'd like to do is just poll the audience here to ask you guys, hey, what types of hardware or applications are you using today? So feel free to provide any sort of answers to this poll. Are you guys seeing the poll coming up here? Want to
Yeah, so the only person that can acknowledge it is me. And yeah, I see it. I just can't take the poll
you
because
can't
I'm a presenter.
oh, there you go. Okay. There you go. Oh wow. So far a lot of people have everyone has one of these things. Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, so thank you guys for answering those polls. I see people still coming in here. So far, everyone who has answered the poll has at least one of these different systems, right? And I'll share the results when we close it out here just a moment. But really, the big thing to keep in mind here is all of these different tools, all these different hardware objects or application objects, the things that people have within their environment. And a lot of you, I imagine, have or are evaluating Aria operations, and being able to extend the visibility from Aria operations into these different tools and then subsequently be able to correlate that data in a single place is very beneficial, specifically when it comes to troubleshooting, specifically when it comes to understanding just the topology, the layout of your environment, understanding, hey, if there's an issue, where does it fall in the stack? Okay, is there a problem with the storage? Or is this a routing issue? So the ability to view those different components from a single place makes that troubleshooting job a lot easier. Right, so the poll has been open for a couple minutes now. I'm going to close the poll, and then we can share the results here. Let you guys all see what the results are. So it looks like as it relates to the first category, compute, everyone has at least one of those, which I would, imagine, I would hope that people have that they're running their applications on something. See pretty high attainment for storage. Connectors, not quite as much. Networking, certainly. Virtualization and containers, quite a few. right? Create a few databases, right? What you would expect. And I think this really just begs the question, hey, would it make sense for us to deploy some of these management packs? And as Deepak was saying earlier, a lot of them are do not come with an additional charge. So certainly don't feel intimidated by some of the management packs, specifically the ones that deal with compute and storage. Those ones are typically free to use for anyone who has Aria Operations. So I would encourage you guys to use those different management packs, take advantage of them. All right. Well, with that, Deepak, I'll turn it back over to you to continue with the slides here.
Okay, I don't know why it says share results for me. You
You
already
should
shared,
just be
right?
able to. I did. Yeah.
Okay,
And I see a Q&A coming up here. So we're going
okay, hang on. I'm gonna kill my thing. Yeah, there is a Q&A question from Stephen. So I don't know, regardless of whichever virtualization, we know Nutanix, and like I said, Marketplace has a whole bunch of them. There is going to be, starting in Q1 of 2024, an open API. Right now, the APIs are with the specific vendors to write their own monitoring tools. But Aria, if there is a plugin, we should be able to an API call, we should be able to view it and report on it in reference to it. I don't know if everything is there. I knew about Nutanix, and naturally in the cloud, if you especially have AWS, Google, VMware Edition, Azure, VMware Edition, then Aria Operations can be absolutely used. If you have the native clouds and you need to get costs in those metrics, we also have what is known as Cloud Health component, Aria Cloud Health, that does the native direct clouds, and that's what for all of them, right? Whether it's IBM, AWS, Google, we even, I forget the name, one in China. So they're all supported within that environment.
Hey,
All right.
yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the question, Steve. If you have a specific hypervisor that you're curious about, feel free to drop that in the chat and we can provide you a more direct answer. But the short answer is, for things, the really big other hypervisor that we see is Hyper-V, and you can use Aria Operations to monitor workloads on your Hyper-V environment. Okay. But if you have a specific one that's you're curious about, feel free to drop it in the chat. Okay. All right, and I think we can move on from there.
Okay. I was just typing out the response, so give me 30 seconds.
Oh, I was just gonna write, we answered it live.
Okay. Okay, I just added 2 more lines into it. So how do we extend this visibility with Aria Operations for integration? That's the renaming of that TVS module. So here's some key uses. So software-defined data center health management pack. So what you're seeing is heat sinks of red, yellow, and green. Green, naturally, hopefully somebody who's selected the colors as defined green as being plus. So it's a single pane of glass monitoring. This is a specific dashboard that they have zoomed in and specifically defined their little environment to monitor, right? So single pane of glass, checking availability, and then you can also zoom in on the various individual components on the left side. So there's like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panes within that one dashboard in that side. And again, the integration can be managed across Aria Automation, which is yet one more component of the Aria family, which does automation and self-driven end user. If they want to deploy VMs or apps, they are prompted through Aria Automation of self-service portals. We're definitely covering Aria Operations today, and naturally Aria Operations integrates with the vCenter, NSX, SRM, including vCenter's orchestrator and or Aria Automation's orchestrator. Log Insight is also collecting the data and can be integrated up into it along with your virtual infrastructure management solution. So basically, in the highlights, you can monitor the health of VMware Identity Manager resources as well, along with your NSX. And then again, this is one sample of many of the dashboards that can be added as. So if I go install the Microsoft SQL one, I'm going to get by default 5 additional dashboards that can give you much more detail than just looking at it from up here in the databases that we had in the screen before. The next dashboard that we're highlighting is this discovery management pack, right? It discovers all the services running on each of the VMs and then builds out a relationship dependencies between the services from the different VMs based on the network and the communication it's doing. Again, the benefit here, it is agentless of the auto discovery of the services running on the VMs, but it's technically going inside the vCenter and yanking all that data out. Auto discovery of the relationship and dependencies between the VMs that it's building using the AI tools that it has, and then the dynamic application creations as well that the applications are being used and how are they being used. So in this case, in my lab environment, I had Apache primarily run, so it's not that detailed, of a solution set, but main point was the correlations within the VMs that are running within your environment. We also can go out to ServiceNow and integrate that in. I used an old deck that this has been around since Aria Operations 7.5. It used to be called vRealize Ops in 7.5, and it is the enterprise for ServiceNow, I believe, is in that higher stack. I would have to go back, check in to be able to create that workflow. So let's say Aria Ops gets an alert, it can go ahead and create an incident in ServiceNow. And then when that alert is dismissed, whether it's through ServiceNow or the other way, there should be some correlation going around with that CPU usage being at 100%, that both sides are talking to each other, and that's the integration point with that API. So back to the management packs and context packs overview. Again, Joe will take you to marketplace.cloud.vmware.com, but there are over 100 management packs for Aria Operations. Even the log insight. Normally, we sell Aria Operations as a suite, which is Aria Universal Suite. That includes the Advanced Edition, not the Enterprise, but the Advanced Edition. That's the most economical. It also includes Log Insight. You can absolutely buy a bundle that has Enterprise in it as well. And then there's 70 plus content pack for Aria Log Insight. The Log Insight itself has a code.vmware.com that is a little out of date. It's 2019, but it has some additional packs and to be able to create your own. So those are the links if you wanted to get into the API calls and modify and create your own analysis tools that may not be by default available with the management packs or the log insight, content packs. Then the end user is free to develop those things. So I don't know if I should highlight, or Joe, you're going to highlight them, like the.
Yes, I'll jump into that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You're going to jumping in.
All right, and let me share my screen. Just give me one moment here.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about this, guys. Had a bit of a technical problem.
All right. Just want to confirm, Deepak, can you see my screen all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, guys, what I want to do is start to talk through the how a little bit. All right. So Deepak went over the why are the management packs useful? What are the management packs? What I want to start to dive into is the how. How do we actually start to use these different management packs? And the last slide that Deepak shared, I think, is a great segue into this, because the place that we would want to start more often than not is the VMware Marketplace. And now to find the VMware Marketplace, guys, Deepak provided the URL and you can find it that way. But honestly, if you ever can't remember the URL, you want to pull it up quickly, just type in VMware Marketplace and it's the first one that pops up. Now, once you've done that, navigating through this marketplace, very straightforward, right? Let's say in this case, we are interested in adding in a Microsoft SQL management pack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do show all, right? And if we want to find, you'll notice there's quite a few different plugins that are available across the VMware suite of technologies for Microsoft SQL. And something I like to do just to make it a little bit more manageable, so I like to go into the filters and filter for just Aria Operations. Okay. And once I've done this, I have a much more limited and manageable view. Now, I'm going to look for the one that's the management pack for Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, I'm going to click on this. And what we'll see is a description of that management pack. This does a great job of articulating the intent behind the management pack, some of the different metrics and dashboards that you will now have access to once you plug in and install this management pack. All right. It also provides a series of pretty great screen captures just so you can get a sense of how it looks and feels before you go through the process of downloading and installing this. Now, that being said, the download and installation process, it's really not too difficult to do. What I want to do is walk you guys through that process. So if you were to decide that, hey, look, I want to download and install this management pack, you would sign in and you have an option to download this management pack. Now, once you've downloaded that management pack file, you will be able to install in your Aria Operations environment. But before you do so, I do think it is worthwhile to be aware of the documentation. So we can get to the documentation by scrolling to the bottom of the page and just clicking on the link, right? Once we do, we'll be redirected to this page, right? And now this page is specific to the SQL management pack. It talks a little bit about what the management pack does, more importantly, getting started. There are some prerequisites. So a lot of management packs are plug and play, very straightforward. You just download and install them. Some require a little bit more involvement. And just because I wanted to make this valuable, I chose to do one that's a little bit more involved. Okay. So one of the things that you have to do for Microsoft SQL is you do have to provide privileges to that database. All right. So Aria Operations will speak directly to the database, but we have to make sure that the database has the appropriate permissions. So that way, when Aria Operations is making requests via API, the SQL database will return a response. So there is some permissions that we have to set. The really nice thing about this is it will describe and I should say it will explicitly lay out the commands that you have to input into your SQL Server to allow it to communicate with Aria Operations. And if you ever did want to see really what are the different tables, views, and functions that these permissions will be accessing, you can look through them here. All right. I have had customers in the past that I've worked with who said, hey, look, we're okay with everything, but maybe not sys.allocation units or whatever it might be. And from there, we were able to manipulate the code so it jived with the requirements from their security team. So just something I want to make people aware of. All right. Now, once we have downloaded that management pack, I want to walk through what it looks like from the Aria Operations user interface. So what we would do is we'd go into data sources, jump into integrations. All right. And we will see a repository of all of our available managed packs, the ones that we've added in the past and that we've since activated. But if we want to add a new one, we just press add. You browse for that management pack file. You select it. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to reinstall it, but you can install the management pack through here. It's very straightforward. All right. We press browse, we select the file, we press upload, press next, just accept the user agreement, and then there's one more button that is install. Very straightforward, very minimal learning curve to get this up and running. All right. So once we have installed that management pack, what we'd want to do is we want to search for that management pack. Okay. And in this case, we can see this management pack here. It's already connected, but in the event that it wasn't connected, we're going to want to add an account. We'll provide it a name. I'll just call it test SQL management pack, right? Provide the host IP there, what the instance name is. We also have to provide it with your credentials. So if you press the plus icon there, you'd be able to come up with a name for your credentials, a username, and then password. Those are required. The rest are optional. All right. We can also select the collector group. Collector group is basically, hey, what cloud proxies might we be using? We can leave that as default in this case. I always recommend pressing validate connection before you just punch the add button, just to make sure that things are working appropriately. Now, once you've done that, you'll notice that when you go into accounts, this is where we're able to see all of the different adapters, all the different things that we have connected. And you guys can tell we've really made an effort to connect and test a lot of different things in this environment. But if I were to keyword search for Microsoft SQL, okay. Oh, wait, no, it's in there. I promise you. Let's just try SQL. Here we go. Microsoft SQL Server, right? We can see all the different servers that we have added. Now, you will notice that there's a status that says okay. A question that I often get when I'm walking people through this is they'll add it and then it will say error or waiting or something like that. It just does take a couple minutes, so be aware of that. Don't panic if you see an error. Just give it a few minutes and refresh the page a couple times. All right. So once we have that installed, every management pack comes with some level of dashboards, metrics, alerts, tables, graphs. Essentially, it takes all of the information off of these third-party objects and translates it into an easily consumable, visualizable, actionable platform that you guys can see. Right. And I want to take us through just maybe one or two dashboards in the interest of time here that show some of the capabilities of one of these management packs once you install them. Okay. So I'm going to go into, let me do Microsoft SQL. Okay. I think the overview dashboard is pretty compelling because it just provides that instantaneous feedback of red, yellow, green. Are all the instances happy and healthy, right? So a very quick overview of the environment itself. Now, if let's say maybe I want to dive a little bit deeper and I want to look at, let's say maybe the SQL Server and virtual machine relationship. There's another management pack that you can use, maybe if you're doing a little bit more troubleshooting. And this allows you to dive deeper into the servers themselves. All right. So as you notice, if I click on the different SQL servers, all right, there are different alerts that will pop up. All these different widgets are interconnected. They have different alerts for the SQL Server itself, alerts for the virtual machine. Something really nice that I like is it provides a visual topology of those object relationships. We can also see just the SQL Server health, the virtual machine health, the performance, some of those key performance metrics that we might be interested in, right? Throughput. So I'm not going to go through every single thing in deep detail, just in the interest of time, but I hope that this just provides you a sense of the types of information that we can get fairly quickly from installing this management pack. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, what if there's different heat maps or different metrics that I want to look at? I'm going to do a secondary demo where I dive deeper into the actual dashboard and how you can create your own dashboard and create a custom dashboard. So we'll circle back around to that. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention before I turn it over to Deepak is I'm going to switch into the SaaS version of Aria Operations. So I just wanted to note the difference. The dark color is on-prem. The SaaS color is in light mode. Both instances have light and dark mode. I just kept one dark and one light to denote the difference. Okay, but one of the nice things that just minimizes a couple of the clicks for Aria Operations SaaS is the marketplace is available and integrated into operations itself. So you don't have to go into the marketplace if you have the SaaS version. You can see all the available management packs right from here. I don't have admin privileges, but otherwise I would be able to just press a button that says activate and it would kick off the download and installation process right from there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Deepak. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll allow Deepak to segue into some of the dashboarding capabilities and use cases.
Thank you, Joe. Oops. Hang on. I think I clicked on the wrong, or I should be in here. Bear with me. Okay. Diving deeper into the data. So we'll go in and look a little bit more. Again, these are the canned dashboards that are installed once you install the specific package. But just peeling back the onion is that, again, there are 4 or 5 panels within this dashboard. So that way you can aggregate your alerts. This is the list up on the left side, filter alerts by critical status, and the status and or the type to determine the priority to look at. Once you have that selected, it may show you what all the components that are related to that environment. That could be storage, it could be the various VMs, but you can get a view of all that alert and all the environment and the relationship that it's impacting based on those unhealthy objects, or it could be a healthy object, doesn't matter in reference to it. And then the heat sinks are showing you the greens, the reds, and you can get a quick dashboard view, in a clean way, and then to say, where did you have to go in, focus on the reds naturally and the yellows, right? So that it helps an overall health view of the environment. I think the managers also, your managers that you report up to may want to have those dashboards to look at as read-only and to be able to see what's going on in your environment. This is, again, another one, executive views of the health and consumption. It's a little different. It doesn't have that zooming in on the individual components, just giving you graphs and charts of the overall health, and then the utilization reports. Some of the CPUs are in the heatsink of the CPUs and utilization running hot. So therefore, they may need address. And then you can, Joe, when he defines his, shows you in the next demo, he's going to show you where you select your color codes to represent what. But this is a great one dashboard to review your environment in a clean way. And again, managers or executives can use that and say, hey, this is what we're spending our money and this is what our infrastructure looks like. Going into the intelligent remediation and then zooming in, right? Easy drill down once you've selected those alerts to be able to zoom in on the various components. For example, this is a SQL database, and then it's showing you all of the components within that database, but also the apps and the vCenter and the vSpheres that are all connected in this possible data center. And then you can further drill down to get analysis and metrics if that's what's needed. But this one has that alert, and that's why it zoomed in on this thing. This is an example of multi-vendor storage dashboards, right? Whether, as we showed earlier, you could have NetApp, you could have Pure, you could have Dell EMC storage, HP storage. But if you had all those, you may have to log into Pure to look at their environment. You may have to log into NetApp to look into their environment, and so forth and so on. What this is doing is yanking in all of those and creating a metrics and the health of all your storage. So relationships of the storage arrays being utilized, capacity, planning your storage out, the importance, the array scoreboard on the right side, see your most important storage metrics for each array is being displayed locally. And then you have your metrics, right? It's got 10,000, 20 of something going on, and all those metrics are being analyzed. The percentages are there in a clean, nice, viewable, human interfaced view, and normalizing that data across the various arrays as well. That leads me back to Joe, and I will stop sharing again.
All right, thank you, Deepak. I'm going to share my screen once again, folks. Let me share the screen. So Deepak started to talk a little bit about the dashboards at a high level, and some of the rationale behind, hey, why would you want to use these different dashboards? Now, once again, I'm going to get into the how. How do we actually create our own dashboards? Because out of the box, there's quite a few different dashboards that are available. And just to confirm, Deepak, you can see my screen all right, correct?
I can, sir.
Okay, perfect. So under dashboards, I'm in home here, and you'll see a lot of the out-of-the-box dashboards that are available. They pertain to different topics of interest, the things that 90% of people are interested in, things like virtual machine performance, maybe just the overall capacity of our environment. So quite a few out-of-the-box dashboards. Now, you might be saying to yourself, hey, look, at my organization, my manager is constantly asking me for updates on X, Y, or Z, or certain key performance metrics, key performance indicators. And in fact, I was working with this one client of mine who had a manager who, understandably so, was constantly asking for updates on the health and well-being of their environment. He was specifically interested in understanding what their CPU utilization was, because they had suffered from somewhat of an outage due to out of control CPU consumption. So he's constantly asking for updates from these different engineering admin. And many of you guys know, as engineers, when you're working on an engineering problem, right, you're zeroed into that idea, into that goal. And whenever someone asks you a question, it pulls you out of that headspace, and it can be difficult to get back into it. It can it does take cycles to shift your focus. So what me and one of my clients did is we decided to create a heat map dashboard for this manager who was asking these questions pretty continually. And what the clients did on their own was they actually bought a computer monitor and mounted it in this guy's office and perpetually shared one of the dashboards, one of the heat map dashboards to that manager's office monitor. So he could continually see updates as to what was going on, a live feed of the health and well-being of their environment. Okay. So he was happy because he got the information he wanted to see, and the engineering admin were happy because they were able to really focus in on the work that they were doing. So that's a long segue into, well, how do you actually create one of these dashboards? Now, creating dashboards is pretty straightforward. When it comes to creating dashboards, there's a series of different widgets that we can use. We can also create our own views if we want, but we'll focus on widgets for now. And it's, again, pretty straightforward. You drag and drop these different widgets into the dashboard. Now, the configuration of some of these widgets can be a little bit tricky. So, once again, I wanted to dive into something that might not be overly intuitive, just so you guys are aware of how you can create these different dashboards, specifically something like a heat map. So I'm going to call this CPU heat map dashboard. Okay. And what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to press the pencil icon, edit the widget. I'm going to have it refresh the content automatically, right? Because if we're doing that goal of having just a continuously monitoring monitor in an office or at our home computer, whatever it might be, we want to refresh. We're also going to have a self provider, which essentially means that the data from the heat map is going to be provided by the heat map itself, right? And what that means is we don't have to worry so much about input data. What we have to worry about is the output data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with the name for it, and we'll just call it CPU heat map. Okay. Oh, just want to make sure. Oh, sorry, I think I might have lost you guys there. We're going to group this by CPU usage. So let me see if I can just do CPU usage. Let me filter here. Come on. I might just have to manually search this. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have set this as host system. Host system. Okay. All right. We can keep these the same. We're going to focus on groups. We'll keep the mode general just to keep it simple. The object type is going to be the virtual machine itself. All right. And then we're going to size the virtual machines based on their allocated or their provisioned vCPUs. So find vCPUs provisioned. Okay. And then we're going to color it by CPU usage. Okay. And now one other thing that I like to do, this is just a personal preference. I don't like this ugly brown color, so I like to have it red, yellow, green. Okay. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to press save. And then once I save that, we'll notice that the heat map has begun to populate. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just so we have a better sense of what's going on within our environment here. All right. And you'll notice that you'll notice a couple things. For one, these are grouped at large by the different clusters. And then the virtual machines, I'm sorry, these are grouped by host. And then the virtual machines themselves are all of these different rectangles. All right. Now the size, like we were denoting within the configuration, the size is based on the CPU provisioned. And the color is based on usage. So if usage is low, in this case, about 5%, it's going to be very green. If it's higher, right, like such as in this case, it's going to be about 80%. So just providing that instantaneous feedback to the performance of our environment. Now, I do want to add in a little bit more information here, okay? Because, if we do have a red virtual machine, we might want to add in some more troubleshooting features. So I'm going to add in a scoreboard, let's say. I will also add in maybe an alert list. I also very much like the different topology maps. Okay. Let me do a little bit of reorganizing so it looks cleaner. I also like to add in an ability to search metrics right from this page itself. So I'll add in a metric picker and then the output metric chart. And then maybe just to tie it all off, I'll add in a more advanced object relationship map, okay? And what I'm going to do from here is just size things so it's a little bit cleaner. Aesthetics is always important in my opinion. Okay. Now you'll notice that a lot of these widgets aren't providing information, or if they're providing information, it's not specific to the heat map that we're seeing up top. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add in the plumbing or the wiring, if you will. And it's very straightforward. We go into show interactions, and then from here, we're able to have the heat map output and provide data to these other widgets. All right. So I'm just going to go through the process of connecting these widgets. Now, one thing that's a little bit of a gotcha that I want you guys to be aware of is you'll notice that the blue wires indicate the object. So object information is being provided to these other widgets. Orange wiring indicates metrics themselves. So for the metric picker, for example, I want to have an orange wire because I'm going to be outputting metrics as opposed to objects. Now, once I press save, once I'm going through the process of taking a look at this environment and saying, all right, well, this particular heat map is showing that this virtual machine is unsatisfied for whatever reason. Okay. And if I click on this virtual machine, it's going to populate the information in all of these subsequent other widgets. All right. So I'll see different alerts. I'll see the object relationship. If I wanted to go into metrics and maybe look at, the CPU demand over time, right? I can see what that CPU demand has been. You can also see a much more advanced view of the topology of my environment. All right. So hopefully thus far it's been pretty useful. But there's one other thing that we want to do. We want to be able to share this dashboard with other people within our organization. And one of the things that you can do with the on-prem version of this tool is there's these 3 circles with 2 lines connecting them. If we press on that, then what it will allow us to do is share this dashboard. And the really nice thing about this is I can share information without having to provide username, credentials, creating roles for other people. And from here, right, all I have to do is select how long I want this to last for. I can copy the link. I can also send it via email, embedded link, or different groups, or export it. URL is my favorite because once I copy that link, I can just paste it in. And the end user, that person that we've provided that link to, is going to be able to see just this information, right? Just the information that we want. Really, really useful if we're sending this to a dashboard or sending us to a computer monitor or something like that. All right. So from here, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to my friend Deepak.
Thank you, Joe. That was wonderful. I'll go back to the slide deck just to close us out. I know we're short of time, so I apologize for that. So again, the whole point of these, and it's a summary slide, it's the importance of getting the full stack visibility. You saw how Joe integrated the various dashboards, the various components, plug and play, drag and drop, but it's for being able to look at your entire environment. And within that environment, it could be meant for your collaborators, it could be your DevOps team, the app ops team, the database, because we were monitoring it at one time, databases, but it includes your various different infrastructure environment. And that's what's critical about Aria Ops, that we can integrate with various other tools that you're using, and then to be able to display those metrics to you. So there's a quote from a end user, it's a little out of date, but it's still relevant, that they were able to build a single source of truth across the many technologies that they were using. So whether it was storage, network, virtualization, they all had one now dashboard and metrics to be created. Whether this dashboard is off a little bit, and it may be because of delays, but at least they all agreed that it was one dashboard that they would baseline their thing. It's being like the Carbon 12 being the baseline for a whole bunch of things. So the recap of the presentation, and I'm purposely going through fast just in case you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A. Multiple tools that you may have from different vendors can create some certain blind spots. Data is worth nothing if it can't be turned into useful information. And hopefully Joe with the dashboard creation showed you that. And the overview of Aria Operations for Integration dashboard is useful and beneficial. Like we said, most of these can be downloaded and integrated. There are some for applications, NF5, and some networks that need to be licensed, which we're on top of the hour or close to it, or we are on top of the hour. If you guys have any Q&A that we can address, we would be more than happy to do so.
Okay, I do know it is the top of the hour, so understand if there are not questions. Typically, folks, after we have these power blocks, you might have noticed we recorded them, and we usually do post them online, most often to YouTube. Once we do that, you can find the different YouTube videos, and honestly, a whole lot of other great content under a YouTube channel called Tech Elevated. So please feel free to check that out. I won't go through the whole, subscribe montage thing, but feel free to check those videos out there. All right. And we'll give it maybe another 30 seconds for any questions. Will you be providing email? Oh, I do see Ken had asked a question in the chat. Will you be providing email so we can reach out to questions later? So Ken, we certainly can provide an email. What I'll do is I'll add in my email, joe.dibella@vmware.com. Oh, I misspelled .com, but you should see it there. I will say that depending on where you're located geographically, you might be partnered with either Deepak or myself. So, feel free if Deepak, why don't you add your contact in there as well, just so people have it. And Ken, if you want to shoot us an email, if you have questions, please feel free to send Deepak or myself an email. And if not ourselves, we will be able to find you the appropriate resource to help you.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in Q&A. Sorry, it's going to be off of emails for us. Yeah, by the way, we are 2 out of the 4. So there's Alonzo and Wesley as well. So depending on where you guys are. But yeah, I guess this was more focused for us, right? So it would probably be Joe or I. So let me
Yeah, we invited people within
within
our
our
respective
region.
geos.
Yeah.
Yep. Ken, if you want to provide where you're located, then we might be able to figure it out that way. Houston. Oh, okay. So you're likely in my territory. So if you want, it would be great if you could send me an email just so I know who you are and figure out who the appropriate resource is for you. If we can't find the appropriate resource, I'm happy to help you myself. I always enjoy these types of conversations. So thank you. All right, I do have to jump, unfortunately, for another call that I have, but for everyone on the line, thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for participating. We will have more of these types of sessions. So if you have topics of interest, please feel free to email Deepak or myself, and we're happy to dive into whatever it might be that you guys are interested in. So with that, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you.